You'll see a lot of her works published. And she's on the editorial board of about 5 or 6 journals, right? One of them is the Journal of International Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right?
IBR and so on.
Which are International Business Review, right? Which are the other one?
The International Journal of Export Management, the European Journal of Management, and then the Italian ones.
So being on editorial boards is part of our let's say, obligations and contributions to the community, right? As you know, we don't get any payment for that, right? It's just voluntary work that we should do, right? At some moment in your career, right? Once you become a more well-known author, right? You'll be invited first to be on the review board as a reviewer, and then later on the editorial board, and at some moment as an editor-in-chief, right? It's a very nice job. It takes a lot of time, a lot of responsibility, but we learn a lot. As we review articles, we do learn a lot. New things, good things that they do, right? Some of the way they arrange the argumentation, the structure, and bad things that they do, so we can also avoid, right? Okay. And as we read the comments of the other reviewers, we also learn from them. We learn a lot.
It's true.
And going to international conferences, I know that you go to international conferences. So Marina and Claudia are already faculty, right? Okay. All the other PhD students, okay, on the way. So going to international conferences is the way, and going regularly, right? Because after 3 or 4 years that you go to the same conference is when actual networks start. They start to trust you, say, oh, this person is credible. This person is serious about what she or he is doing. And then you become part of it. I prefer European conferences because people are much more friendly.
Oh, yes.
Right? In North America, people are much more competitive. Yes. Things are changing. Americans are also now more friendly than they used to be 10 years ago, but there's so much
we are evolving.
Right.
Next time.
They want to know what you have been doing this year. In Italy, in Europe in general, they want to know that, but they want to have a beer with you, to talk with you, talk about family, about anything. So going to European conferences is much more fun. And we're very happy to go to the regular North American conference also. So, Antonella, it's up to you, right? Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for us to have you here and an honor for us. Right? We know how your schedule, your agenda is tight. Antonella, Professor Zucchelli just came from 3 weeks in the United States.
1 month.
1 month in the United States. Boston, right? And then Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta.
And a week in Florianopolis.
Denver also. I've been to Manuel Serapio in Denver. All my international entrepreneurship community. So
okay.
I've been jumping through the states. And
don't forget that you're going back to Italy today, okay?
Yeah.
Don't take a plane elsewhere. Right?
No, I want to go home. It's 45 days. I'm far from home now. It's time to touch base. Touch base.
Yeah, that's
so thank you, Jorge, for inviting me here. It's a pleasure, really. And this is my first time in Brazil. So I'm so happy to be in Brazil. And I have a number of colleagues and friends from Brazil. We always meet at conferences, but being here is a different experience because you really feel the culture of a place, what we call in Latin the genius loci, the genius of the place, and you really brag it. So it's a great thing. I have a few slides, but as Jorge said, honestly, I prefer a conversation with you about international entrepreneurship or about doing research in general, because we can take international entrepreneurship as a paradigmatic case of how research can be developed, through which challenges, obstacles, but also opportunities, and so on. Just a few words about my university, because I am always proud to mention, because nobody knows what we study and where it is on a geographic map. It's a small town, it's 70,000 people only. and 30,000 students. So it has the same proportion as Cambridge. In fact, they call it the Italian Cambridge. And it is the same type of architecture because they have been, the universities of Pavia, Cambridge, Oxford were all born in the same years, more or less. So as you can see, this is a town full of university buildings. There is nothing else. There is no industry. There is just a university. It's not Sao Paulo. And you have very ancient, beautiful buildings. This is a college for our students. It's not a university building, but it's a college for students. One of the many. The city is full of colleges. This is our Olympic team of rowing. Silver medal at the Olympic Games the previous time. So we have a river, so they row a lot along the river, and we are very tolerant with them, of course, when it comes. These are our former students or professors. I will not mention them all, of course, the list is much longer, but being in Brazil, I would like to point out Christopher Columbus, which was a student at the University of Pavia in the period more or less between the 15th and 16th century. So we don't know if he graduated ever. We are not even sure that graduation was something that is precisely what was going to happen, but certainly he was a student. And so other people like Alessandro Volta was professor of physics, which is the man we owe a lot of things we are using now, electricity, communication, and so almost 700 years now of history, and this is just to tell you something about where I come from. And of course, if you want to come personally to Pavia and stay for a research period, you are more than welcome. Some of these colleges are only for PhD students, for example. So there is a community of people coming from all over the world and staying for short periods or longer periods, developing research and so on. But my idea was to talk about international entrepreneurship. And I like to use examples. We all know these companies. I took global examples, very well-known firms. What do they do? Google, Tesla, Uber, Airbnb. They were all international from the beginning, from the start. These are relatively younger companies, though already well-known and globalized. And they all started immediately their international relations. They were born with a global mindset, with the intention to expand beyond the domestic market borders. And I choose this example because all of them started from the United States, an American company. So you cannot tell me, oh yes, if you are based in a small domestic market, then you have to go abroad. No, they contradict a literature that says, oh, you start internationalizing early only if you live in a small market. No. They had a big market, one of the biggest and wealthiest of the world, and still they wanted to go outside and to do it immediately. This is what we call a phenomenon of own global firms, or, according to another literature, international new ventures. What is interesting here? There is a phenomenon that does not fit with the existing knowledge. So I like to use, as I said before, international entrepreneurship as paradigmatic case. When you find, it doesn't matter if you are doing research in finance, accounting, strategy, or international business. but you might find yourself in front of a phenomenon that does not fit with existing theories. And then what do you do? Well, you have options. You pretend not to say them. Or you say, outliers. As the statisticians, this is an outlier, let's keep it up. Or you can start thinking about it and say, well, is it an outlier or there is more flesh into this? Is it this contradiction to existing knowledge something that I can build upon and develop alternative explanations, alternative theory? This is what happened in international entrepreneurship. And it happened through the work of PhD students. That's why I like to talk to PhD students, to give them courage. Because it was the PhD thesis of Patricia McDougall and Gary Knight. Before I use these two terms, Von Roberts is Gary Knight, PhD thesis. International New Ventures, a few years before, was Patricia McDougall, PhD thesis. They saw something. They used different terms, but basically what they were seeing was a phenomenon that literature did not explain. It was even conflicting with it. And so they decided to go ahead. They didn't close their eyes. They didn't treat it as outliers, but they decided to collect more data. They found the empirical evidence was robust enough to provide alternative explanations. This is how research proceeds. And in any field, it proceeds like this. You can proceed in a very incremental way, providing increasingly more refined explanations to existing knowledge. Or you can proceed in jumps, because you find something that is new, really new. So, this is the story in brief of international entrepreneurship. So, these are the things I wanted to tell you, but these are too many probably. So please stop me if you want to add something, if you want to know something on what I'm saying, because I imagine many of you will not develop research in this field. But you might be interested in the more general topics that I'm treating, that is, when a phenomenon is can be considered relevant research, when it contradicts theories, and so on. So please stop me on this one. Did you ever find an evidence that doesn't fit with you in your research? And what have you done? Have you tried to ignore it?
To twist, probably.
As they say, explanation. The statisticians, they try to clean outliers. Clean the data set, they say. And so, in fact, there is this famous economist, he has written fantastic books. Have you ever read Freakonomics?
Yes.
Yes. To me, a masterpiece. And there is a point in which he writes, statistics is not science, it's art. So it's an artistic piece of work. You can portray basically what should. Now that we have cancelled this bit on statistics.
Antonio, I have a question. He says, if the statistics don't fit, you adjust in the Word document.
Yes.
Right?
There are a lot of tricks in our job. So, international entrepreneurship was born 30 years ago, as I said, from a PhD thesis that was published in exactly 1989, 30 years ago. But of course, the work started a few years before, and it was the PhD thesis of Patricia McDougall. The first time they used this term, international new venture. What I find, again, another interesting lessons for you, because of course, you do research. You want to find something new and interesting to say. And you also want to publish, because of course this is part of your career. And it's also a recognition of a journey you have done. She could publish this article on a very important journal, Journal of Business Venture, for stars. It's an entrepreneurship journal. So they welcomed this paper. It was Melinda music they were happy to hear. That is, new ventures. The problem came when she tried to publish an international business journal. It was playing the music they didn't want to hear. Because it's exactly in international business that the theory said it's not possible that the new venture is also international. It's not possible that firms go international early and fast, because the conquer of foreign market is a slow process. It requires time, resources, competencies. So it goes slowly, it goes progressively, it goes incrementally. And which is the theoretical assumption of this? Because when you want to attack a theory, you have to go to the foundation, to stay on the surface. Because the surface can be easily adapted to different conditions. But it's the roots that you have to attack. And which are the roots of these traditional theories in international business? The root is that firms and entrepreneurs particularly are risk averse. They don't want to take risks. So they proceed slowly. When they have the resources, they do a step, and they will do another. The second hypothesis is the hypothesis of distance. Distance means liabilities, costs, risks, and you are afraid of distance. So this will stop you, make you fruit. You are risk averse, and you have the liabilities coming from distance. So this was the theory in international business, still is, to some extent. Well, when you want to publish this story in an international business journal, as I said, you're playing the music they don't want to hear. So that took more time, it took definitively more time. And they could publish finally on the most important international business journal in 1994, 5 years later, with a theoretical approach, trying to explain on theoretical foundations. While the previous was an empirical evidence, now they are building a theory. And so this is an interesting story about how research can develop. And in this article, you also find this magical word, incongruent. They say there is a phenomenon that is incongruent with traditionally expected characteristics of multinational enterprises. So they underline that there is a phenomenon that does not correspond to theory. And the phenomenon is relevant enough, big enough, to be treated as something worth of investigation and then of theorization. So this is the story of international entrepreneurship, and there is, of course, the parallel stream, again, another PhD thesis on born global firms, published in 1995, a first contribution, So this is what I think is interesting in the story of international entrepreneurship. The other interesting thing is when a new field is born, you need concepts, you need theories, you need a literature to bring it. This can be done with a lot also of cross-fertilization and contamination. So international entrepreneurship borrowed from entrepreneurship, certainly, but they borrowed from international business, and they borrowed from strategic management. I like to insist on this point because it's not just a combination of entrepreneurship and international. There is more to it. Think that in order to explain the behavior of these international new ventures from global, many authors have used constructs like dynamic capabilities. So they borrow from strategic management. So this is how a field has to make itself increasingly strong, borrowing foundational concepts also from other disciplines, closer fields, and putting them together in a coherent view. So what else? Well, as I said, the topic of distance is, and the liabilities it brings, is the key one supporting international business, which goes together with risk aversion. So, as I mentioned before, combining all these elements, distance, risk aversion, the need to acquire knowledge through direct experience, they bring it to a process of internationalization that is called rings in the water, so very slow, incremental. You start from the very close markets, and then you progressively go more distant markets. You go from the light form of internationalization to more committed ones. So from indirect export to direct export to investing in foreign subsidiaries. Regarding products, you sell existing products, then you start adapting, then you even create new products for new markets. So it's a theory based on progression because it's based on distance and risk aversion. But as I said, all these doesn't fit with empirical evidence we have, not fully. Some companies behave exactly like rings in the water, so it explains the behavior of a number of firms, but not all the firms. When a firm is young and small and wants to go abroad, the firm has to face three liabilities. Liability of foreigners, related to distance, liability of smallness, related to small size and limited resources, and liability of newness, related to lack of expertise in running the business, and also even harder resources constraints. So when you have a company that is at the same time young, small, and wants to go abroad, you have a situation of triple liability that suggests, well, this company is not going to go abroad. It's not adding an additional liabilities to what is already happening there. So they are supposed to be major obstacles to international growth. But still they do. 1/3 of European small firms as consistent export activity. And many of these firms are also very young. So how can we, as the authors I mentioned before, how can we make sense of these empirical, of this incongruent behavior? So certainly we need to dig a bit deeper. That's when case studies can help. When you really want to understand in depth a new phenomenon, you don't have enough parameters to define it, to understand it. So you need an exploration of something. So that's when you go to case studies. I will make an Italian example now. I abandoned Airbnb and Google. My local example, not only Italian. This is very close to Paris. This company, do you know what is Oca? Who's?
Who's?
Come si dice in
Ganso. Ganso.
Okay, who's? This
That's an Indian name for a house in Brazil.
okay. This company was founded a few years ago by two young entrepreneurs. No previous experience, no venture capital finance. And what is the business? Not even an high-tech business. They do salami with goose meat, which is this one. This is a salami made of goose meat. We have been following this startup from the beginning until now. And we still follow them. It's a very nice longitudinal case. You know, longitudinal when you observe a case along the years, you repeatedly interview, you triangulate. This is what you do, as I said, when you really want to understand in depth a phenomenon that is going on. What is interesting here is that they did not invent this salami. It's a tradition that exists since centuries in our province. Only in our province. If you just go out of Pavia, nobody has ever heard of bush salami. You will not find it in shops. So you really have to come there if you want to eat it, or buy it online. When they started the business, the other local competitors, all very small firms, were closing. Because this is a product that, if you don't break out and make it a well-known product, sooner or later, all these local firms will disappear because the market is getting smaller and smaller. Because who eats goose salami in my province? I maybe eat it at Christmas Day, maybe. People are increasingly into, let's say, like kind of eating or healthier, or it's a bit fat, I must admit. Why starting a business in such a traditional production when everybody is closing down and when you have only a local market of 500,000 people that are getting older with moral problems, they don't want to eat this any longer? It's not conquering the young people, millennial consumers. So what are you doing? Are you crazy? If you are risk averse, you don't start a business in this condition. You can start the Airbnb, you can start the Tesla, but you will not start something like this. They did. Well, of course, there is also an hypothesis. They are completely mad. Always consider it when you do research. I always tell to my PhD students, look, there is always another explanation, and maybe simple. They are mad. I told them. They started 2013, sorry, not 15. What they did, they said, we are not going to sell this product here. We sell it to Saudi Arabia. Of course, everybody in the village was laughing. They said, Saudi Arabia. Yes, of course they had to obtain the halal certification, covering the entire process from killing the animals, sorry for them, to producing the meat and so on and so on. They were certified in 12 months, and then they started sending their salami there. They found a distributor. They found a market that was very interested, because in Saudi Arabia, as you can imagine, they don't eat pork. But there is a very high interest in buying everything that has a label made in Italy, regarding fashion, food, furniture, and triple F, on which the Italian system still depends. So, for some more time. So they are very keen about made in Italy, but they have restrictions. This solved the problem. So, a problem of a consumers find an entrepreneur ready to provide an answer. This is entrepreneurship. This is how opportunities arise. And opportunities are not cherries that are hanging from a tree. This is creation of opportunities. Opportunities are created by entrepreneurial imagination, courage, volition, are all elements. So we were afraid that they were mad. No, they were courageous. I don't know if you have ever read the theory of planned behavior, which is one of the main theories in entrepreneurship. The authors very often use the term courage, and they provide also very strong scientific explanation of the concept, how to identify, how to measure, how to see. So here we found courage, but you only know ex post. This is sometimes our hard job as academic researchers. We are very good in providing ex post explanation. At the beginning in 2003, I was 50% mad, 40% courage. So I couldn't tell. I can tell you now in 2019. Now that all their business is going to the Middle East, they are entering to other markets in their geographic area. They have very, very high profit margins. Now they struggle in providing all the required salami to these markets. So, of course, this is a success story.
But Antonella, in regards to the marketing, do they tell, this is a recipe from my grandmother, and because every entrepreneur in Brazil has a storytelling, it's a family recipe.
Very local knowledge, very local knowledge, yes. There is much tacit knowledge here, which protects them nicely from external competitors. The local competitors are not worrying because they were really not believing and still do not understand what's happening here. And outside that, this knowledge does not exist. I don't mean this is not rocket science. So of course, it's always possible that someone finds a way to. But let's say there is a lot of tacit local knowledge that they could leverage on. So basically, entrepreneurship is about seeing or creating opportunity. And doing this not when everybody is doing the same thing, but when the others are not. When the others are not seeing or creating or believing in this. That's when you have success. Otherwise, you have a lot of imitators that will go in your same direction. So, and this is also the story of international entrepreneurship. Of course, we particularly are interested in the fact that they targeted immediately from the beginning a foreign market, which became their main market, not the local, but foreign market. So this is a bit a story of how a research field develops, and which is a way to try to understand, to explore a field more in depth. You need, for example, a lot of case study evidence to go deeper into the phenomenon, to identify all the elements that determine it. And in fact, the beginnings in this field were very much based on case studies. Still nowadays, they have a very important role. But then, of course, when you are capable from case studies to develop a research proposition and constructs, then you can try to rationalize them and go to a quantitative type of analysis and survey. So this is not new, I think, to you. So now we have also a lot of more quantitative analysis about this. So basically, what we find here are the key elements of entrepreneurship. We have proactiveness, the capacity to anticipate, not to follow, but to anticipate, to see something, to create an opportunity. We see innovativeness. You may tell me, salami is not that innovative yet, but we are talking innovativeness in terms of strategic approach, in terms of mindset, in terms of model of business, and so on. And risk-taking, which is the opposite of the risk aversion principle we commented before. We are building here on the opposite principle, that is risk-taking and not risk aversion. And this explains nicely the idea to start a business when everybody thinks there's no future. To go to the Far East, to the Middle East, when all the others stay in a North America, and so on. And then we have a very classic element in entrepreneurship literature, that is exploration and exploitation of opportunities. So how opportunities are formed and how then they are exploited. Because everybody can have a brilliant idea. Personally, as my PhD students say to me, you have a brilliant idea every day, but you never practice one. Because we like, when we have lunch together, we like to joke about what business would I create today, based on what we have read, information we get, things we see, observe. We play the entrepreneur. So we form opportunities. And I must say that looking back, this game, in a number of cases, produced ideas that then have been effectively followed by other entrepreneurs, of course. So our brain can generate a lot of ideas. Looking, combining information, observing, talking to people. So the problem is the exploitation, that is how to make these ideas happen and become a real business. I guess this happens to you also in your personal life. Sometimes you think, oh, I should do this, I should do that. But then there is what we call in the literature an intention-action gap. So entrepreneurship is about action. It's not just about intentions and ideas and formulated hypotheses of opportunity, but it's about exploitation. That is finding the resources, putting them together, making them work, developing capabilities, and bringing to the market a product or service and a convincing value proposition. This is our job, of course. And as Schumpeter wrote a century ago or more, I think, there is a difference between the inventor and the innovator. The inventor invents things, but the innovator brings them to the market. And that's what we call exploitation. Capacity to bring things to the market. So, of course, in this entrepreneurial process, you can see different skills, capabilities required, and you can see it in a processual way. So nowadays, the international entrepreneurship field is more about studying the processes than describing the characteristics of born global firms or international managers. So more about studying how these processes of exploration, exploitation of opportunities happen. So, I'm speaking too much. I'd like to have a bit of debate.
We will discuss the process, as you said. You look more for the entrepreneur or for the context. For example, I'm studying technology in Russia. And as a result, we know that technology is responsible for a lot of new business. So how do you deal with the entrepreneur in the context of international?
You mean in the context of the industry, or
in the context, like for example, globalization, like for example, technology, like for example, regulations. Do you think it's more about the entrepreneur in this process, or do you think it's more about the context in this process?
This is a good question.
Thank
This is a good question. When someone tells you this is a good question, it means that he doesn't have the answer. When you have to discuss a paper and someone says, I have a question, if you cannot answer, you say, very good question. So, no, but you are touching a key point. That is the relationship between entrepreneurship and context. Here we have two different points of view. One is that entrepreneurship is context independent. It's a process driven by entrepreneurs. They create entrepreneurial ventures. It's very heroic process. Even solitary and decontextualized. The other view is very contextualized and says, well, there are a lot of contingencies and factors that affect this process, can make it easier or can constrain it. And these factors are more or less the ones you mentioned. That is the global conditions, the situation of the economy, the regulation, the technology, the industry situation, and so on. And this is, I think, the most promising research happening, because in the last 4 or 5 years, there have been already some repeated call for papers and call for research in contextualizing entrepreneurship. Even a book was published. Title was exactly contextualizing entrepreneurship. So there is a call to include context in the game, because it matters, of course. We still have to understand better in which way it really matters. I mean, job for you, of course. Because I mentioned an example. We were talking of globalization. If you read the articles I mentioned before, the foundational articles in international entrepreneurship, they say, well, international entrepreneurship is a phenomenon that was made particularly possible by globalization. That is, the fact that many trade barriers were removed in the last 40 years, 50 years, the fact that there is easier capacity to communicate thanks to ICT, internet, the fact that transportation costs have dropped dramatically since the beginning of the 70s. So they relate globalization to international entrepreneurship. Someone else relates the emergence of the high-tech industries to international entrepreneurship. They say, oh, but there are more cases of international entrepreneurship in the high-tech field than in others. At the same time, I must say that we are observing in the last years the trend of deglobalization that you might have heard about. Deglobalization is the fact that, according to a number of experts, we have reached a peak in globalization. And now we are probably making some steps back. For example, consider the rise in trade barriers. Again, after 50 years of reduction, they are rising back again very sharply in a number of countries, both developed and developing. Which is the effect of deglobalization on international entrepreneurship? Honestly, we don't know, because we are confronted by a new phenomenon. So, if the literature originally said globalization favors international entrepreneurship, Aristotle would say deglobalization constrains international entrepreneurship. Are we sure it's like this? Or may it provide an additional challenge that the most courageous and opportunity-driven can try to overcome? I was talking to an Italian entrepreneur before I came, and he has a medium-sized firm in the machinery business, advanced machinery for the healthcare industry. And he said, look, very proud, I opened a research lab in the United States. I was smiling like the goose alarm. 50 employees. I mean, you are opening a research lab in the United States. I mean, you're not Google, you're not a giant. So what are you doing? He said, well, I put there a couple of people and pay their salaries. Basically, I need to put a foot in the US market because that president is getting nasty with our business. So I would like to cancel this tour. I need a foothold in that market to present myself as a company with an investment in the US. And this is a way to accredit myself as someone who wants to hire, invest, and develop research there. This has, and I do, because of course that is one of the most technologically advanced places, so why not? In the mind of this entrepreneur, what was a big barrier, obstacle, additional factor of distance, in his mind became an opportunity to do a step or to anticipate a move that maybe he would have done or maybe not. But for him, the dominant view was, let me create an opportunity, let me transform a problem into an opportunity. This capacity to transform problem in opportunities is very typical of entrepreneurship. So I'm not sure that, going back to your question, deglobalization means less international entrepreneurship, or might mean fewer cases, but of higher quality or different quality. I don't have an answer. And the same is for the effect and the effect for regulation and how regulation. Think of Uber. Uber is having a very nice life in Brazil. For the first time, I can use my Uber app here. I can have each child. I was tempted yesterday to have a tour across San Paulo, just to use it. Because when I'm back in Milan, no way that I can use Uber. I have the app, but the regulation was so unfavorable to them. They have to pay so much to be in the business, to operate, that in the end they are more expensive than taxis. So they did, the lobby of taxi drivers canceled this, pressured the Italian government, both local and national government, to punish Uber and similar kind of companies. So, of course, Uber can withdraw from Italy. It didn't happen only in Italy, in a number of other places in the world. You can withdraw from the market. Many firms will do that. Uber started Uber Eats. I mean, Uber Eats in most countries is a way to remain in the market with a different business model and a different value proposition that is not under the radar of regulatory authorities, at least for them. So, I mean, even with regulations, I'm really waiting for someone like you to provide answers to this question, which is the net effect of context on international entrepreneurship, and how does it happen? We don't know. So anytime there is we don't know, you have to be very happy, because there is room for research. When you know everything, then it's no fun. More questions, more comments?
It's interesting that Uber Eats actually in Brazil it's not very used, because we have other competitors
Yes.
that we have like Food and Happy that grab the market first. So Uber Eats here is not very used.
I was the only one, so that's why I asked.
No, my daughter also. She's
You
Uber Eats
Uber
fan.
Eats, yeah.
Okay.
But talking about that, I was thinking about a case that here is now common. That's the Grow case, or yellow and green. The companies,
The small scooter.
yeah, they put these small scooters and bicycles to run the city. But here it didn't work very well. Actually, Yellow bought another company. They were competitors and they joined forces. But still, the regulations here are trying to solve the issue. And the company is doing very badly, actually,
Yes.
in Brazil because of the context. And even Lime, that's from the US, came here and they are trying to compete also, but it's not
It's
working.
difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same in Italy. While when I went to Paris, I don't know if you noticed, what's the English name for this?
Scooter.
Scooter, no,
No, the
monopattino.
name.
I don't know. They are everywhere. So,
Patinage.
they are everywhere. So people zoom everywhere with
It's
this.
very dangerous.
It's very dangerous. You cannot walk on a pavement and they know they take you. So in some places where regulation was not prescribed, they developed enormously because they solve a problem that is urban mobility. I mean, remember, anytime there is a problem, entrepreneurs try to address it and find solutions. So, but if regulation intervenes, like in Italy, for example, they were starting in Milan, but now everything has stopped because, of course, the insurance, the risk of incidents, and this and that and that. So at the moment, it's so of course regulation can limit, and I don't know if these companies will react some way, changing something in their business model, or I have no idea. But yeah,
And I think to cope with regulations, when Uber or Lime goes globally, it copes with regulation, because if in this country it doesn't work, I go to other country and I go to other country, and some country will work.
Yes, in some places it will.
So it's going global. It's actually running from risk, from regulation in some way.
Sometimes, effectively, it may be a way to escape from unfavorable condition in one market and move to another one, and so on. So again, context may play a role, especially when regulation is relevant. We have a case in our book, OFO, the Chinese bike sharing company. Very famous case of entrepreneurship. One of our co-authors has been an entrepreneur in China for some years, Manuel Serapio from Denver University. So he knew personally people involved, so he could write a very nice case. But then when we published the book a few months ago, it came out on The Economist an article about OFO is in severe crisis. I said, oh my God. But this is when you write about these cases of entrepreneurship, you have to be ready to the fact that not every business will succeed. Maybe they are very successful at the start, but then they find some obstacles. It could be a change in regulation, it could be the entry of many competitors. In the case of OFO, the problems were many. One was the entry of many competitors, because it's a business that you cannot protect. I mean, bike sharing is bike sharing. Then there was a problem of overexpansion. Sometimes, and this is another very nice topic to study, entrepreneurs have this double-sided personality. They have courage, so imagination, willingness to pursue their goals, and this is very good. Determination, volition. The other side, the dark side of the moon, is overconfidence. They feel overconfident because there is a very subtle line between risk propensity and overconfidence. When you take too much risk because you think you can manage, you feel confident, excessively confident in your capacity. And it has been studied in literature. There are even the construct has been operationalized, so you can measure, you can reply this test. And they all confirm that majority of entrepreneurs have this overconfidence bias, which permits them probably to take on challenges that other people don't, but at the same time they under-evaluate some risks. So that happened to us. They were so confident, they started an expansion, obtaining funds, entering the diversified business that then they couldn't manage. So again, you learn a lot from success stories, you learn a lot even more from failures in entrepreneurship.
But most failures, right, Danielle, don't get published then. We publish the success stories ex post.
Yes. That's a big problem. We know that much of our literature is probably biased upwards. That is, we only write about success cases. Yeah. But not because we only want to tell the nicest story, but because, especially when you do empirical research, if you have to interview the entrepreneurs, if they are successful, they are very happy to tell their story. If they fail, difficult to get an interview, difficult to get an honest interview, in which they do not blame the government, the rain, the climate change, but they blame personal mistakes or biases like overconfidence. So it's a problem to get empirical. Also, when you do a survey, the survey you send to living companies, not to the dead ones. They are no longer there. So we have probably what they call an upward bias, where I think biased by successful or is not successful existing business. And we should study more failures. Also because there is more learning failures than in other things. I have, it's not in the book because this failed before we wrote it, almost. We followed for 10 years an Australian startup. Shoes of Trade is the name. You still probably find it on some journal articles. It was such a promising business. They were doing custom shoes. And even though they were based in Australia, you could do everything online. They had a platform, you could design your shoes, you could test the shoes, they provided scanning devices whatsoever, so make sure it was suitable for you. Choose the color, choose the heels, what you want. And then in 3 weeks they deliver the shoes at your house. A bit expensive, but you can imagine it cannot be cheap, a system like this. And they were doing very well. They had 2 rounds of venture capital investment, millions and millions of dollars put into this venture because they were doing very well. In March 2019, they closed operations. And it was already a year that we had rumors. They didn't want to release more interviews. They became very closed. There were rumors in the financial community that there were problems there. So now our most important challenge is to understand why they failed. Because they are no longer disposed to talk to us. We rely on journal articles. The venture capitalists don't want even the name of the company to be mentioned because they steal birds probably in their wallets. So we are really determined to discover the reasons of the failure. So we put together some pieces of this puzzle because we spoke to customers. Then we spoke to suppliers. We are trying to reconstruct from other pieces of story. But again, this is interesting for your research. When you want to study something and you really want, and the company doesn't want to be studied, in our case because it failed. What do you do? You're reconstructing all the pieces of the puzzle, talking to customers, to suppliers, to distributors, to opinion leaders in the footwear industry. And now slowly the story is coming out. Slowly coming out. But again, yes.
Antonella, talking about phenomenon-based research, when you see something which is interesting, apparently also incongruent with the literature, but you don't have an explanation yet. How willing are editors to welcome such kind of this is a descriptive account of something that doesn't fit?
I'm very happy with your questions. I'm a big supporter of phenomenon-based research. I think it can deliver very interesting advancement to our knowledge. Because you identify a new phenomenon, as we mentioned, we made this example, but you can put it all the examples. You identify a phenomenon that has empirical evidence, not that you dream in your nights, but something that has empirical evidence and is happening and is not fitting with what we know from a theoretical point of view. Then I think doing research in this area is, to me, very, very good, very promising, has to be done. The problem is that you do find always editors, reviewers that are equally open to read new things, to make sense of new phenomena, and so on. There is a bit, I mean, I understand the reviewers or the editors' point of view, there is fear of accepting something that is not strong enough, and there's not sufficient support. So you are always to take a responsibility if you accept. But in other cases, it's just being closed minds and refusing to see something new. But there is also the opposite case, however. Even though I'm a big fan of phenomenon-based research, I am concerned when people write papers on something they believe it's new. Because it sounds new, because it's trendy, because it's fashionable. But that's not a phenomenon. It's a fad in many cases, or it's a trendy thing that can be explained by existing theory. Honestly, I find some papers like this, and they follow some trending buzzwords. And they say, oh, I'm doing research on this new phenomenon. Ecosystems, I will mention. Ecosystems. It's the third time I review a paper on ecosystems, so I'm being upset about it. I said, what? So tell me the difference. I mean, is this a new phenomenon, ecosystems? So tell me what is the difference between ecosystems, clusters, business, networks. If you convince me that this is another category from a conceptual point of view, with its own roots and foundation, I'm happy to hear it. If not, this is just an example. I have nothing against the term ecosystem, but if you propose a phenomenon-based research, you have to convince me that ecosystems are not something we are already seeing with different names. Because there is often the temptation to put old wine in new bottles sometimes. So it's not easy to separate these things.
And this old bestseller. So in the airport.
Just yesterday, I revised a fantastic paper, cancelled for a journal, and the paper was about funerals.
About
Funerals.
funerals.
You know, in Italy we are very, very superstitious. So when they assigned it to me, I did it because I'm a friend of the end. Otherwise, as an Italian, I said, sorry, but this is not. But I said, wow, but this is interesting. I will write a paper on it. And it was about sustainability in the funeral. A sustainable funeral.
My goodness.
So I said, well, it would be interesting. It was one case study, single case study, which already is a bit difficult to study. However, single case study on this term, startup, international new ventures, that's why it came to me, of course, and the international new venture in this sustainable field. And the author were really infused in telling the story. I cannot tell you the title, otherwise they will recognize themselves, especially given that we are recording. The title was really amazing. And they were really infused in telling the story as something really innovative. I mean, again, where is my question is, what's innovative here? The only innovative thing is that I've never seen a paper on funerals. But this is not a reason to get published. Because there is no reason why for funerals you should apply different theories and models for other businesses. So forget that. But what's the novelty? And they were insisting it was about sustainable business. Okay, but this is very trendy, it's very fashionable. But can you tell me this business has something that we said before about international venture that is incongruent with external knowledge? And they are sustainable. They use renewable materials. I don't want to know more about it. They organize everything in a very sustainable way, and then they produce the coffees in a country, and they transport in developing countries and transfer them to the developed countries. Sustainable. Transporting materials across the oceans, cutting trees, probably also Amazonian trees, what is sustainability? A very narrow view of sustainability, not a good one. Not based on the overall.
Even if it were sustainable, as you say, what's new to theory? It could even be a good business proposal, but that can be explained by current strategy theory. Right?
The focus was internationalization, but do you say something that is not already in international entrepreneurship? No. Do you say something that is not already in international? No. So what's the number? Sustainability, because everybody uses the word now sustainability. It's good for everything. You know. In Italy, we say it's like parsley. You know, let's say parsley, people like salsa. You put it everywhere. In Italian cuisine, when you don't throw it everywhere, it's always good. So sustainability is always good nowadays, supposed to be mainstream. But yeah, but if sustainability delivers noble theory, good. Otherwise, it's not. So.
I would like to come back to the first discussion of your presentation in regards to the linking international entrepreneurship with theories. And you mentioned the three liabilities: liability of foreigners, liability of newness, and liability of smallness. In the 2009 paper, Johansen they developed the concept of liability of outsidership.
Yes.
I wrote, yes, writing something about it. That's why
Yes.
And I think it's quite important for young entrepreneurs going abroad. You know, if you want to go to the Silicon Valley, it's not only for a branding issue or, but also for trying to develop your own network and to be in the right place at the right time, to get the knowledge. I don't know. Is it the liability of outsidership?
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but effectively you are right. There was an attempt in 2009 to bridge better international business and international entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And to use the role of networks. So Johnson and Palmer revised their original model of internationalization, including this liability of outsidership. So if you are outside a network, this represents barrier. So it's not sighting distance from the market, it's not other factors, but it's being part of a network, which is more or less something that also international entrepreneurship says. So they converge on the role of networks. So nowadays, we have to consider not only the differences, but possible convergence points. At the same time, the case I have chosen is interesting because they have no network.
No?
No. They didn't have a network in Saudi Arabia they could leverage onto it. So I chose this case deliberately just to outline that entrepreneurs' coalition and quest for opportunities can even overcome availability of salary, they have to create a network.
They have to create.
Or better, network is a big word. Let's say a partnership with a distributor in the Middle East. But only after they decided to do this work. So they didn't go to Saudi Arabia because they had existing conflict. But on the other side, they developed this partnership after they decided to go there. So certainly, relationships are important. We need to understand better the moment of their formation, before, during, after the entry, because here we don't have many works. And also another thing about networks, I just published a systematic literature review on the role of networks in international entrepreneurship. Where we found out through this systematic analysis of literature that the large majority of contribution says networks are good for internationalization, are vital, are essential. But there is a number of works that say what networks can create problems. So there is enough there to say that the truth, the full story is more nuanced. Sometimes networks do not necessarily support early and fast internationalization. Sometimes they may constrain it even because they provide you a highway to some destinations, but they cut the exits to alternative destinations because you are embedded in those relationships. So for a number of reasons, there is some empirical evidence about controversial role of networks. So this is another thing that is worth more investigation. I think that Johnson and Walden wrote a great article in 2009, just trying to bridge all these fields. But the view, reading the article, I also spoke to Jan Erik Wallner about it, but the view that the article conveys is an idyllic view of networks. They are only good for you. Cannot do that.
And they only look at developed countries.
Yes.
Multinational.
Yes, so there is a systematic bias. As I mentioned before, we have a bias for success, for survival. Okay. We have a bias for Western multinational, and even when I started, I made cases of American international ventures. So this bias is still persistent. We don't know enough emerging markets. We really, especially in international entrepreneurship, majority of works are not about emerging markets. So and it would be very nice to know, because this is a question I had in Itajaí also. A PhD student told me, is it worth to study this phenomenon in emerging markets? I said, well, even more than work, because entrepreneurship is about creation of value, of business activities, of innovation for the future. And the future is in the hands of emerging economies. I think that the Western economies have achieved a peak in their economic development. We have increasingly signs that this peak has been overcome some time ago, and now the situation is getting more difficult, troubled. Economic systems are more, let's say, tired, have lost a lot of drive, while emerging markets are taking this challenge, this labor. So that's where I should study entrepreneurship phenomena in emerging markets, because younger population, more growth driven, more determined to succeed, to achieve better conditions of life. In Italy, in 10 years' time, more than 50% of the population will be above 70, which means something for entrepreneurship. Of course, I'm a big supporter of senior entrepreneurship. It's a research field that I tell everybody, stop studying these young people founding and stop. Also because in Europe we have a lot of good people now. Young people do not exist anymore. But of course, a country with a young demographic structure has a different drive to entrepreneurship than a country with a dominant older senior income structure. So that's why I dream of founding a business with my PhD student every lunchtime, but then I never create.
I have a question about methodology. You said that it's very difficult to sell a single case, and that's a single case, right? The outcome.
What did you say now? The first one?
You said that it's difficult to sell a single case study because you're telling about the one that you're reviewing. Which kind of insights can you give us to publish a good single case?
This is another good question. I use now a single case because I wanted to give you some material, a bit concrete material to discuss international entrepreneurship. But I never published an article with this case only, because it's more difficult. Of course, reviewers like to see more case studies, because in this case, it's easier to demonstrate that you have achieved what we call analytical generalization. You know, with quantitative studies, you can achieve statistical generalization. With case studies, you can achieve generalization. There is a lovely article on how to generalize from case studies. It's a particular type of generalization that is analytical. And but to do so, normally you need more case studies, so that you can recognize patterns, for example, and identify commonalities and try to develop from these commonalities to build some theoretical conclusions. So even though there is no golden rule, because I'm always asked by PhD students, then how many cases? Because this is the question. The students want to be practical. They say, look, how many cases? I don't know. I mean, but Eisenhower said from 4 to 6. Yeah, that she might have a bad night for that, because, I mean, there is no golden rule. When you are sure you have achieved satisfactory analysis with well-identifiable common factors that are stable, and adding one more case does not deliver more to your knowledge, then it's fine. So it could be 4, it could be 14 or 40.
Well, I would tend to say that as long as the evidence from a single case is compelling enough, it's not just, oh, this is one possible explanation. There could be others. But if you can rule out other potential explanations in favor of one that seems to be much more plausible from the evidence you have collected and from how that evidence, what interacts with another, the so-called chain of evidence. This is a challenge. If the chain of evidence is convincing enough, so a single case should be okay.
it's more difficult to make it accepted.
Yes.
In my experience, I found a lot of resistances
Oh.
in reviewers. So I published a few months ago a single case work, but it was nested. It means that it was a network of actors. So I interviewed the orchestrating firm and then all the related firms. And then I interviewed different levels in the same organizations. So at the end, we had 32 interviews. So in this case, of course, a single case is okay, also because it's very difficult to reply a nested case study more than once. It takes a lot of time and does not necessarily provide the outcomes you are hoping for. But I'd say it's more difficult to get accepted by many reviewers with a single case.
Because they say there could be other explanations. This is just one potential. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that this could be the only explanation. That's the problem. I'm also trying to publish a case with 4 companies and 2 investors. So at least we have 2 sides of the story. And I get this. I was rejected. I read in 2 journals because they say not enough cases. The thing of a case, I think I have a rather compelling story there. But
Sometimes you have really good stories, but you don't find other to mention.
I have a case of success with a single case study and a case of failure with no, it's 2. It's not a failure, but it's 2. Going on. I think that you're right. It's not easy because you have to have that's what we have been talking about. You have to have several interviews.
Yeah. You can play it on the number of interviews. I mean, it's not on the number. And it depends also which is the unit of analysis. Because we didn't spoke about it, but I don't know which is your unit of analysis. If the unit of analysis is the firm, a single firm case study is creating some problem. But if you're, as I have done once, if your unit of analysis is the decision to enter in a foreign market, and you have a firm with 17 entries in foreign markets, and anytime you interview the decision maker in charge of that entity, you have 17 cases because the unit of analysis is the decision to enter. It's not the company. Though a reviewer can say, yeah, but it's always the same organization, so there is a variety of context and blah, 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 but then you engage a discussion. The important is engage the reviewer in a discussion. Because when you arrive at this level, then you can hope to convince. I mean, you make your reasons, and but if they say no from this,
sometimes it can still appeal to the editor, but engaging with the conversation with the editor, saying why.
The editor is another story.
But if you have evidence from different sources, so from interviews and interviews with the different players, then you have secondary data also, so that makes a more compelling case.
Yes, that's true. More sources you have, the better. Well, we are talking of classic system analysis. That is what we normally do in most of our research. There are other methodologies that do not use the term case study. They are qualitative methods, but think of phenomenology. Phenomenology are personal interviews, people to understand a phenomenon in depth. And in this case, the unit of analysis is the person. And Normally, it's done in small numbers, 4 or 5 people, not more, because it's very time-consuming type of interview, and the analysis is very complex. And here, you are not looking for common factors. You are looking for variations. So the more variation you account for, the more phenomenology is selected. So it's another word. For the moment, we stayed on the more classic case study research, which is already quite complex to handle.
I think that's it.
Okay. If some of you would like to talk to Professor Nelly Zucchelli about international careers, Professor Antonella, she's a visiting professor in some universities and has been a visiting professor in some others. So she can help you start building a plan
For the future.
for the future. Yes. Okay. So you
Where
have
do
to.
you see your future? In Brazil, in other countries?
That's a good question. Serious question.
Are you born local or are you born local? It's too soon to think about it.
But you have to create the opportunity, as you
Yeah,
said.
you have to create your opportunity. It's like Ocasio said. You have to create your opportunity.
And being inside a network is important, right? Not to suffer from the liability of outsidership, right?
Yeah, this is a case. Academic research and careers are very much suffering of liability of outsidership. I mean, our job is a classic case in which you need to be in networks, and networks are typically international, and possibly networks that are stimulating your desire to do research, challenge your views, encourage, support your research. So we have a very nice community in international business, as we were saying before, and I think it's a very stimulating kind of environment for young people. But of course, I know that many of you are not in international business. Am I right? Which field are you?
Just
International business.
yes.
And you?
Business strategy.
Strategy, okay. That's where I came from. I told yesterday to Jorge that I come from strategy. Because in Italy there is no distinction between strategy and international business. Internationalization is part of the company strategy, so it could be product diversification, market diversification. That was the classic view to it. So even now it's like this. I mean, I'm not in Italy professor of international business. I'm professor of strategy and teaching international business.
I came from strategy, my master, and right now I'm doing organizational studies, but my focus is on human resources.
Okay.
I was studying business and studying in business schools in UG. And now I'm studying issues related with the dark side, like corruption, my friend.
Okay.
And my main focus is here with the job, with the work. Emotions.
Emotions. That's a big topic in entrepreneurship. In not international entrepreneurship as such, which has been more focused on internationalization processes, but in entrepreneurship, general entrepreneurship, this is a big topic. So that's looking forward to see your works.
Yeah.
And you put together corruption and emotions.
Actually, Corruption is the name. Is the guy.
Okay. You're about corruption.
I study corruption in organizational studies.
It's a fantastic topic because it's so relevant and it's so under the surface.
I was thinking about Tom's question because actually in corruption, it's easier. I think it's easier than other areas to publish a single case study because it's difficult to make a multiple case study. It's hard to find one and then imagine multiple. So
I think it's harder to find one.
Yeah.
It's supposed to tell.
And survive, right?
I found in international entrepreneurship a fantastic case study about corruption, context, and decision to internationalize. I will tell you more.
Yes.
I will tell you more. Also because you are always the camera, so there are things, stories that I cannot tell.
Very well. Okay, Antonella, it's fantastic talk, right? Very, very good. We hope to welcome you at another time in Brazil, Maria Teresa Serra. Longer.
I would be very happy to come back, but of course my invitation is extended to you, Teresa, and you're going to come to Paris. I hope I convinced you that Paris is a nice place. Also to the PhD student,